share with you about these misconceptions and possible answers about me. I'm a founder and CEO of Pakistan First UX Studio, just like we told you. I'm a human-centered design practitioner. There are some practices of implementation of user research in a way. And I have mentored hundreds of people from 10 countries to excel their career in UX, along with different innovation and corporate brands to implement the UX strategies. So I'm going to tell you about some of the misconceptions, the right meanings. Today's workshop is for students, graphic designers, UX researchers and designers, front-end developers as well, marketing professionals as well, entrepreneurs, career switchers, startups, and corporates. So why is this for all these diversified niches? You'll get the answers in coming screens. So coming up is misconceptions of the UX. The UX is a concern of the design team merely. What is a non-infused UX in the organizations? You have to better understand this. And what is UX and how is different from UI? UX inclusiveness. What does this mean? How to plan the UX through the vision and strategy of organizations. And the UX execution, the methodology, how to execute these plans and strategies. So this is how I'm gonna divide all of these information blocks. How is the session going to benefit individual startups and corporate clients? I'm gonna answer you. Just wait for a second. Maximize revenue generation. That is a benefit of UX practices. I will provide you some facts and figures. How do you maximize your revenue through implementing the UX methodologies? Reduce the cost and time. You reduce your cost, you reduce your time by rightly practice the UX research. Let's say if you're not implementing the UX as your first stage, as the first step, then what's going to happen? If you're a startup, if you're a company, or if you're an individual, you are trying to begin with the product, and you will get lots of energy, time, and cost, and to building an MVP, and then you present it after 6 months or a year to your users, and get some rejection. You get that time and cost wastage after a year. However, if you implement user strategy and user research practices as a first step of your MVP, you'll get lots of iteration in the very first stage. And by the manner of time, you will save your development cost, your production cost, and your time of the iterations. So this is how you reduce your cost and time. A customer loyalty. You will have a repeat customer. You will have lots of repeat customer, and it will eventually save your revenue, increase your revenue. So I'm going to tell you one fact and one figure, the 300 million fix. The $300 million fix is provided by Jared Spool. He's a practitioner of UX Methodologies. There was a button on Amazon. The problem started with the Amazon is, they said that they're too huge, they have already lots of products, lots of users, and what did happen? The CEO of Amazon met with Jared Spool and set a particular challenge. And that challenge was, neither they got conversions from the new users, nor they got the more conversions from the ex-users. They had few conversions, but not to that up level or a greater manner. So they involved Jared Spool, they conduct some user research, and they taken 5 different users from their new customer and they test with the users who were their ex-customers, that what's actually going to happen. The users were actually visiting the website, browsing the site, products, taking the things into their cart and wish list. But when they start purchasing, they left from that page. So they knew that particular page. They knew that particular area. So after that interview, they get this answer from the users. The new user said that they asked us to register, the register button. And the registration page asks our name, our information, our home address, our shipping address. So they don't want their engagement. They don't want to build a relationship with a company, with the brand. That's why they left. And what happened with the old user or ex-customer? They were the ex-customer of Amazon at some time. Now they no more knew their email address. They signed up. They forgotten about their passwords. And if they forgot password, they asked them to provide them their email. And they don't know what email they used for Amazon. They left as well. So based on that issue, they come up with a solution. Continue instead of the register. And that continue let them purchase by providing their card information, and that's it. Their checkout process will be completed. So minimalization for that particular challenge, they come up with a solution, and that was 300 million. 300. The only fixation of the button. So it was not a fixation of the button. It was solving of a problem, a particular problem, which a big e-commerce giant was facing. Now, let me tell you about something about the good and bad UX. You might have this thought that I didn't provide you any number. So these are some of the numbers. You understand what is the bad UX or good UX. Bad UX is there are some of the facts I providing you. Companies lose $62 billion every year due to the poor customer experience. You get to know the customer experience, and if you provide a good customer experience to your customers, you'll save this $62 billion every year collectively. The sign of a bad UX: 70% of the customers abandon purchase because of the bad user experience. There's another fact: 91% of the non-complainers just leave, and 30% of them tell 15 more people about the bad experience. So what will going to happen? You know the idea of the Google? They only grow based on the word of mouth, and your product or your company or your brand will reduce their value and their brand worth because people start talking about the bad experiences. So it is not about your design, it is about your experience. Now let me tell you something about the good UX. The research shows that every $1 invested in the UX brings you $100 return. There is an ROI of whopping 9,900. When you talk to the companies, to the brands, to follow the right practices of the UX, this is the fact and figure which come up to us through Google surveys, to the Google research. Google did this research for their own products. And we get this research from Apple. We get this research from Samsung. So this is the ROI, the number game. The second thing is a well-designed user interface raised your website's conversion rate by up to 200%. With a better UX design, you yield conversion rates up to 400%. So if you have a website, the e-commerce website, or any other platform, the conversion rate depends upon your good user experience. With 8 out of 10 customers are willing to pay more for a better user experience. Remember, there's some fights of different brands, Apple versus Samsung, one brand versus other brands. Some likes one, some likes other. 8 out of 10 customers are willing to pay more for better user experience, not for the design, not for the features, not for the functionalities. But this is why you keep consideration right UX. About this, after this small snacks about the UX, now let's come to right presentation, the misconception of UX. The first misconception: UX and UI are the same thing. You might know these, you might heard of these things to your bosses, to your companies, to your clients. The same things, what's the difference in between? So this is how Jonathan Ive, the app provided. A beautiful product that does not work very well is ugly. And this is exactly how I believe it. If you don't have any experience and you try to provide the beautification of it, it is just like a bad guy with no beauty and just trying to put the makeup on it. That is why you overwhelm or create your application or interfaces. Try to beautify it. It doesn't have a good experience. It's ugly. Misconception number 2: UX and UI is about digital stuff. But Steve Jobs said, the answer. You have got to start with the customer experience and work backward the technology, not the other way around. So you might have experience with some organization, corporate brands that they had this thing that we have the product, we have the features, we have the functionalities. All we need is just a design, just a UI design. You've got to start with the customer experience and work back towards the technology, not the other way around, repeating it, because this is the right way to do things. And what we get this answer from the person who provided a world with the beautiful products. And if you have a question with the beautification, then at least a successful products which customers are happy to provide feedback and they accepted it. Okay, so this is the right way to solve this kind of misconception. What is the UX? To start with the strategy, design facilitation, you do the design sprints, building a user persona, customer journey mapping, to understand the touch point of the user where they have this particular problem. The business model canvas, etc. You solve the exercises, you must use the strategy. The scope, the product road mapping, versioning, and prioritizing. That's the second phase after the strategy. The skeleton, information architecture, prototyping, layout design, design patterns, and design system. Always the skeleton, start working with the skeleton after the scope and the strategy. If you miss the strategy, if you miss the scope, there would be a skeleton of no way, of no reason. And after the skeleton, the surface will lay out on the topmost layer. The UI, interaction, animation, motion, graphics, style guide, the delightfulness of the user experience in the last. Misconception number 3. UX UI is about digital stuff. User experience design is a science and art of designing a product so that it is easy to use, fits expectation, and meets business goal. Whatever your product would be, whether it's a digital, whether it's a physical, if your user experience design won't meet your business goal, it is not called a user experience. Similarly, if it is not meeting your user goals, it is not called your user experience. The example definition is here. You see there's a user diagram, there's a user, business, and technology. There's a few circles. If they all, we see it as a Venn diagram. You see that if you consider the user and the business, it is not feasible. The technology is not around. If you combine user and technology, it's not profitable. The business is not around. If you focus towards business and technology, it's not desirable, not usable, not useful. The sweet spot is where you align all things, the user, the business, the technology. Remember these things because I will gonna tell you in a little more detail. And that. Misconception number 4, design is a single discipline. That's it. Again, I heard this thing many times. You might think that design is a single discipline. There's a misconception. If you see this UX unicorn, what does this mean? A UX unicorn, which I wanted to present you with the things that how you see things as a bird eye view. When you start with the evidence, the data analytics of behavior insights about the what you're gonna do. Empathy is the user research and testing, the answer of why. Creativity is sketching, wireframing, interaction design, and micro attention to how. Artistry is a visual design, creativity, UI details, and delightfulness. Exploration is your user journey mapping, is your experience mapping. It includes maybe your current state journey map, your future state journey map, what's the gap in between, how to focus and fix that gap. And the task and process and analysis, it's who, when, and where. It's also these things. The psychology is a conversion optimization, your using strategy, your persuasive design. And then there's experimentation, it's interaction prototyping, development collaboration. The philosophy, it's information architecture, accessibility, and security. The collaboration, it's the workshop facilitation, your design collaboration, your concept presentation, your concept justification. The execution is technical knowledge and design feasibility. All of these things having a particular answer. You must know, to answer anything, you must know the question first. To answer those questions, you need the tools, the right skills, the right experience, and the right team to execute it with the right processes. So this is not a one discipline. You can get the data. Let me say that evidence and data analysis and behavior insight. You might get this data from a data department, from the data analytics department. You might get empathy results, the answer of why, from some research department. You might get creativity and artistry from the design department, psychology and experimentation with another department. So it's a sign of the answer of this misconception. Design is a single discipline. That's not true. The design is for everyone, for all the disciplines. I will provide you more information in coming slides. Misconception number 5. Design is optional. Good to have. No, it's not optional. Can we work on a function first and then your design comes after? You might have heard some of the similar things in the companies, in the corporates. You can't do this. You can't work on the functionality first and come to design after. Without UX or UI design, the product will struggle to solve both users and the business problems, like we saw in the in our earlier slide, where the Venn diagram was there. You see a good. Imagine interior designers building a home interior design without understanding their client's functional and aesthetic needs. If your interior designer knows nothing about the needs, how can he develop the idea of where they live, how they live, what are their choices? So you must understand what you're gonna build. Why I'm putting this interior design example here? Because if you see when the home would build, and if you dislike it, you don't like that home, would you just vanish it all away, or erase, or Control Z it? No, you have to destroy it and then rebuild. Consider your product as a home as well for all your users. So understand their need, then start with them. Don't go vice versa. After this, I want to show you an example of user experience versus user interface to get a better idea about user experience and user interfaces. So the user experience and user interfaces, the differences. If you see the UI, the color, illustration, photography, typography, and icons, visual designs, and graphics. This is what people can see. And the thing which people can't see is usability testing, the psychology, interaction design, content strategy, wireframes, prototypings, information architecture, understanding the problem, design and user. The more solid base would be, the more solid building would be. I'm gonna stop for a minute and ask you guys, can you hear me clearly? Please answer me.
I think it's pretty much pretty clear to me.
Okay.
I mean, guys, you can also let us know if you are facing any issues.
Okay, just wanted to know because I think that maybe it was a problem. Okay, so let's continue with express the difference of UI and UX. After the differences, we might see a clear example, a clear definition. What is the theoretical definition of user experience? Any question? No. Okay. So the user experience. User experience is a person's emotions and attitudes about using a particular product, system, or service. Those user emotions and attitudes you have to document it. You have to understand. To document those emotions, first you have to do a proper research. The research is mostly qualitative research, 101, and then quantitative. Normally we have, or a market is used to coming up with the quantitative research first, then go with the qualitative, or maybe sometimes they don't want that. The right user research is coming with the qualitative research, with to understand the person's emotions, attitudes, by 101 understanding to a particular product, system, or service. Okay. So the user experience definition according to the ISO definition. I'm going to share you the right definition by ISO. It deals with the user emotions, with their beliefs, their preferences, their perception, the physical and psychological responses, their behaviors, and their accomplishment that occurs before, during, or after the use of the product or the service. So this is very much comprehensive definition of user experience. So it's all about your perception, the user's perception you have to understand about the brand, about the product. If we're talking about the user interface, the UI or user interface is a design process for machines and applications with the focus on maximizing usability and the user experience. The goal of user interface is to make the user interaction as simple and efficient as possible in terms of accomplishing user goals. What does this mean? User interface always align or it's come inside the user experience frame. So the user experience circle is a bigger circle. UI is inside the user experience. And I'm going to tell you how to strategize it and how you execute it in coming screens. For the user interface definition, as per ISO, these are the three layers: the user, product, and goals. The user's task, equipment, environment, and context of use of the product. And the goal is effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction. A more detailed diagram is here. I'm not going to tell you about this because it's very detailed. As per ISO 924111, you can get this information online. That how to deal the effectiveness in detail, the efficiency in the detail, and the satisfaction in the detail. What is user experience inclusiveness? A very hot topic. That topic, inclusive. What is inclusive design? The role of the UX designer in inclusiveness, unconscious bias, and working in teams. What is UX and how it is different from UI? These are the four areas I'm going to tell you about the inclusive designs. So it is a mindset and a series of the practices that intentionally include user that experience discrimination due to being part of a minority or oppressed groups. They can be based on the gender, they can be based on age, it can be based on the locality, it can be based on their any kind of choices. A detailed analysis, inclusive design describes methodologies to create products that understand and enable people of different backgrounds and the abilities. It may address accessibility, age, economic situation, geographic location, language, race, and more. I'm going to tell you one more thing about the accessibility. There are lots of more people also, more than 1 billion people who are facing with some of a minor disability. If we cannot say the disability, we might say them discrimination. And that discrimination is a minor hearing issues, reading issues, visual issues, understanding issues, learning issues. So when you have to work with the products, focusing on everyone. And why everyone? Because then you might have this number game. You might lose the business based on the users, diversification of the users. Sometimes, however, you need some particular user types. At that case, even that case, for that particular user types, you have to focus the accessibility. A person having an age of 20 years might have a visual problem. So you can focus, you must focus based on those areas. Also, gender-based struggles or issues. So your system, your service, your solution, whatever you're going to provide is not only addressing the problem you're trying to solve, but problem for everyone. So why inclusive design? It's diverse audience. Approximately 1 billion people, or 15% of the world population, experience some form of diversity, like I explained earlier. It's a brand booster. Nearly 2/3 of the consumers prefer to support companies that stands for a purpose, while mindfully avoiding those who won't. Brand ranking. Search engines. SEO always rank you best. If a search engine places values on the user experience that consider inclusiveness in their design. So how do you do that? The people with the marketing must know that they have to put the alt text. If your image will not load, how they visualize text for the images, for the videos, captions for the videos. And also when the search engine crawler crawls your website, they can't see the picture, but they read the text. So you must provide these descriptive text. If you add the value for, and that is for inclusiveness, the SEO rank you better. Sales. Inclusive design also helps to boost your sales, and that user experience is accessible to a larger, diverse consumer base. If users don't feel empowered to use your design, they will never be the clients because they can't use your product. So it has a sales based on the empowerment, the sales conversions. How to implement the inclusive designs? Now, after this need of the inclusive designs, there's a question how we use that. It's a mindset adaptability. That's the first thing. This becomes possible when a designer adapts an inclusive design mindset from the beginning. So at the end, it meets accessibility standards. It's about the ability. Identify ability-based exclusions. It's about the situations. Identify situational challenges. No biases. Avoid your personal biases. Engagement. Offer various ways to engage users. Equality. Provide the equivalent experience to all users. These are the ways how to execute your inclusive designs after this. Chat. So we have a question answer session after this. So if we put all of these questions, if you note all of these questions, then we can have this answer after this presentation. Okay, so the first step is non-infused user experience in the organizations. There are many non-infused cultures in the organization. I have experienced so many, and I'm sure that you have experienced, nevertheless, from where you belong, from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, or even USA. It's a global thing. You see some of the organizations, or most of the organizations, non-infused UX culture. So what are the signs of non-infused UX in the organizations, and what are the solutions to let them having an infused UX culture? So this is an organizational UX maturity spectrum. There are dark ages, there is no UX, all resources for the business and the technology needs. You might have knew some of the organizations only have the functional or technological or the business guys sit together, building products, and that's it. How will they do that? The dark ages. So the spot UX is a limited success. They might have some of the internet, some of the UX practices they implement. There's a spot UX. Then UX as a service. The service projects no need basis. So whenever they find these, they serve the UX based on their client's need, or someone wants, or their investor wants, that we will give you the fund if you have a UX partner. They actually don't need the UX. They only provide UX as a service on the project basis or the need basis. Embedded UX, that means that each team gets their own UX resource. When the organization deal in this embedded UX level or reach that level, they have their own UX resources who work with them for the research and execution process. Infused UX. That is the last stage, where every team member has the fluent design skills. And when I say design skills, it means the real need of design, like they can research. They know the problem space and the solution space. They knew the problem solving methodologies. They knew the power of the customer or the people in the longer range, who can be their lead, who can be their prospects. They wanted to save their perception in the mind of users who use the product or they come to the company. So that perception within the organizations, if they focus on that, which means this is an infused UX culture. The issue, before going to the next slides, the question is how to make an organization from one level in a UX maturity spectrum from one to another. This is called the change management. We have a limited time here, so I cannot explain these more slides any further, but I can say one thing, that the change management is one of the important aspects where you identify the level of change, but to see the gap, where you want to reach, where are you now, and then how to deal with that based on the quadrant of your important and urgent matters. The important and urgent, non-important, non-urgent, remove urgent and important. So that's using that quadrant. You try to plan that change management within the organization if they wanted to, if they want, and then make some freeze and defreezing techniques. The 10% you started to defreeze, everything else remains the same. Then the other defreezing, check and get the value. You got that value with the metric, and this is the way how you change your organizational maturity level within the same way, within the same time, and let them help to move from dark ages to spot UX, from spot UX to UX as a service, to UX as a service to embedded UX, embedded UX to the infused UX. So this is how you deal with this. My second last point is user experience, vision, and strategy. How to execute user experience, vision, and strategy in an organization. By the way, what it is. So it's optimal is a keyword. There are business goals, there are user goals. You have to balance both. If you only focus towards the business goal, you will lose your users. And if you only focus on user goals, you will lose your business. So you have to make that balance. And how do you make that balance? This is where the UX vision appears. So if you are involved in an organization to provide a UX vision, there is a strategy. You should start with actionable items. Like I had provided you a Venn diagram of the business, of the design, and the technology. These are three in the sweet spot. This is the explanation of it. You start writing some of the things, planning some of the things. Now let's start with the desirability for the designs. You have to make a customer research. You have to properly drafted what are the ways for the customer research, what would be the outcome of it, so you can measure and evaluate through some metrics. And you have to submit it to the organization that this is where we want to reach, the desirability. The second is viability. Is the business wise viable enough? So you have to make the corporate goals and the brand objective costs here. So corporate goals and the brand objective costs, well, what is going to have our perceptions, what are there, we get the value from the business out of it. And the last thing is your feasibility, technology, opportunities and skill set. Is our team ready to build something on these areas, or we have to hire some more technicals? So this is you have to align. If you work vice versa, you will focus on that. We don't have a technical team, so we can't do these things in this way or in a right manner. So that's what speaker said. You have to go vice versa. In the reverse, in the other way around. The other way around is find with the desirability, then viability. And still last, you have to see the feasibility. And then you have to adjust the feasibility accordingly. This is how you provide your UX vision with the proper documents. After doing this UX vision, you come up with UX strategy. This is a one diagram in front of you. You see the discovery, definition, implementation. The what, how, who, and his you. You have a business factors with the discovery of the UX strategy. What is the company culture? What is the company culture? What you want it to be? What it wanted to be? Business goals, the scopes, the UX goals. You define it. You will get UX goals from the UX vision. The design, customer needs and expectations, their opportunities, their constraints. The deliverable is high-level finding documents. Make those documents. The definition is translate goals into high-level design. The design deliverables. The detailed analysis of the product space strategy and vision is the outcome for. And the last thing is implementation. Planning, development, evaluation, tracking is their business factor. Customer needs, resources, that will establish their deliverables is the design factors. The deliverable is shared resources which embody the vision. What does this mean? It means you come up with proper documents. Once you're done with the business, with your UX vision for the organization, you come up with a proper UX strategy. You document that strategy. Each document needs different, there are different document files throughout the organization. Bind people to the UX vision. Now, how you bind the people with the UX vision? You define the communication methods, how they communicate with each other. You define the UXers, how will you reach the decision? and then we learn, build, measure how to define the schedule activity. For instance, calendar schedules, recursive calendar schedules. We have a recursive calendar schedules for our UX meetings, for our survey meetings, for our design review meetings, and draft a 6 weeks UX plan. To start with, we always have a predefined 6 weeks UX plan, which obviously customized based on your challenge which you're going to solve. To make the UX vision a reality, you have to write scenarios, you have to create prototypes of videos, you have to sort, prioritize the feature features, you have to conduct the research, your interview the usability. So you knew the UX vision, you knew how to make the strategy out of the UX vision, you knew how to bind the people for that UX vision, and then turn the UX vision into a reality. Okay. Are you guys still having some problems hearing me?
Nothing. I think it's pretty clear to me.
Maybe, or
yeah, so I think if it's the same for everyone, I think you can let us know as well.
Okay. Continue with this. By the way, I will try to upload this PPT file or this presentation, so you can have this in the latest videos. Okay, the last point is user experience execution. When you knew the misconception of the UX, you know the right definition of the UX and UI, how it's different from UX and UI, and now you knew how to draft what's inclusive UX design, and then you know non-infused UX culture in the organizations, and you know how to provide the UX vision and UX strategy, so you can infuse UX and inclusiveness experience practices. If you see your screen, there's Stanford D School design thinking model, Double Diamond, Google Venture Design, IBM design thinking model, or GV Sprint model. There's a IDEO human-centered design model. I focus on this IDEO human-centered design. It includes the 3 areas: it's inspiration, ideation, and implementation. It works with divergence and convergence. You explore all of your ideas and diverge your thoughts, and then you converge it in a way with the inspiration to inspire a lot. You don't bind anything with any limitations. You don't limit yourself. And after this complete exploration, you converge them to make it a direction. So it would not be a directionless. Then in the ideation phase, you again go with the diversity, with the divergence, and then again converge it to implementation. So what does this mean? So human-centered design, first of all, what does it mean? Human-centered design isn't a perfectly linear process. It is a process to execute the UX vision and the strategy. And it has a methodology and the steps. And each product individually has its own contours and character, but no matter what kind of design challenge you have got, you will move through the 3 main phases: inspiration, ideation, and implementation. The inspiration means you will learn how to better understand the people. It always starts with one word: empathy. So it's about the people. That's why we called it user experience, people experience, human-centered, customer experience. They all are the users. To better understand the people, you will observe their lives, hear their hopes and desires. In the inspiration, there's some set of activities. As I already mentioned, that we have some time limits. So I cannot walk you through all the steps, but there are over 25 steps for the inspiration, which includes some of the key steps are frame your design challenge, or the 5 whys, recruiting tools, secondary research, user interviews, art sort exercise, immersion, and many more. So let me explain one. Immersion. Immersion is a technique where you spend your time with your users at their spot, where they live in, where they work. So you can actually see and actually feel, you actually watch, you actually smell, you actually live the life for maybe a day, or maybe a couple of days, or maybe a week with them. And there are lots of examples, like a Gillette example, you can get it from internet. So I'm saving time. So Gillette example of coming into the India, how they got, they thought that they will succeed, but eventually they had a very much loss, a very bigger loss. And then they involved the user research team and they practiced this emerging technique. And that technique and phase made them grow in India. And they have a maximum profit throughout the world they have. So it's the inspiration phase. Ideation phases will make sense of everything that you have heard, generate tons of ideas, identify the opportunities for the design, test and refine your solution. And some of the key phases are download your learnings, mashups, journey maps, how might we, co-creation session, storyboarding, or graphic prototype. So let me explain one of the things, journey mapping. So the journey mapping is, you already knew the people, you already know the problem, what they're facing. Now you wanted to know the problem space is where they have the problem, the touch point of the problem, and the phase of the problem. If the user have a multiple phases, so they have a problem, they have a smooth journey, but at one phase they have a one problem, at the second phase they have a different problem. At one phase, what is their touch point? Are they coming to your office or your company to a reception, or they're using your product, or you're using your physical product, or your digital product with the mobile, which page, which area? That is your touch point and the phase. And now what are their pain points? Those pain points are becoming your opportunity for the design. You have to discuss with the team and you have to solve those pain points with the design. That is what your right user experience works with the human-centered design. Implementation. That's a chance to bring the solution to life. You'll figure out how to get your idea to market and how to maximize its impact in the world. So this is the implementation, your idea in your life, and you have to see the impact, how big is the impact it is. For the implementation, you have a live prototyping phases, some important phases are crazy 8, the flow, design, iterate, roadmap for the success, and monitor and evaluate. So let me explain you crazy 8. If you have a paper, you have to make a 3-fold, a 1-fold, a 2nd fold, a 3rd fold. So you have 8 screens, 8 mobile screens. You have to quickly draft the bias as a solution that if you know the problem, you know the user, and you have come up with a solution for that, what is the solution would be? Before jumping into the tool, before opening the Figma, XD, Sketch, Photoshop, whatever your design tool is, just start with the crazy 8 exercises and then present it to your team, get the boards and discuss about it. The different areas, different sections, different elements, so you can have a better picture at that stage rather than working in the isolation. So this is one example. As I already mentioned, there's all 3 phases: inspiration, ideation, and implementation. They have over 60 steps. And by the way, the user research methodologies might have 110, 102 different steps. It is not necessary you have to implement all of these steps, but every step have a different outcome. You get what we started with the definition of the user experience. It's a customer emotion and attitude and the behavior and the perception. So you have to get all of these ideas to see what they believe in, what's their attitude towards, what's their behavior. You have to change it by providing them a proper solution. So this is the right execution of this steps. Thank you very much, guys. This was my presentation, and I hope you like it. Some of your misconceptions might have solved, and maybe you might have some of your misconceptions still in your mind. So I'm here to answer your question.